Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. Tonight we have a special guest spoken word artist who's going to share some poetry with us that the Lord has put on her heart. And it's Tiffany Adamson with her ministry, Theophany Poetry. And I just hope tonight that you are just so filled with God's truth and promises through her spoken word poetry. So Tiffany, we love you. Thank you for joining us tonight. And we're just so excited that you're here.
Well, thank you for having me so much, Pastor Dominique and TCA Worship, and just really all of TCA and Pastor Brad. Thank you so much for inviting me here and entrusting me with this time. And especially, I'm really excited to get to share poetry with you during a specific time of worship. And the reason for that is I know that as believers, we are always encouraged to take note that we should live a lifestyle of worship. And while that's absolutely true, I think so often when we think of expressions of worship or intimate times of worship, we tend to only think of or rely on music and singing. But as a creative, I just love to see all the ways that the Lord has been reclaiming the arts for His glory and reclaiming so many different art forms for worship. And of course, as Pastor Dominique said, I'm a spoken word artist, so my main art form is poetry. And I love Psalms 45:1 out of the New Living Translation says, "Beautiful words stir in my heart. I will recite a lovely poem about the King, for my tongue is like the pen of a skillful poet." And I just think, wow, if poetry was good for David to recite to the King, it definitely is good enough for us to recite to our King and for us to use to press into and worship. And normally I perform a cappella, if you will, but I've asked Pastor Dominique to join me and pray or play underneath, specifically so we really can create this atmosphere of worship, since I know so many of us are used to having that music. And so I really want to encourage you, wherever you are, in your homes, in your living room or kitchen or bedroom, wherever, I really want to encourage you that even though this may be different than what you're used to when you think of worship, I want to encourage you just to press into that. And I'm gonna start with a new poem. And actually, all of these poems are brand new, and most of them got finalized this week. So you guys are the very first audience to get to hear and get to partake in this worship through poetry with me. But I want to start with a poem that really stemmed from just reflecting to God who He is. And that's what worship is. Of course, God typically has something for us in those moments when we worship Him and we reflect back to Him who He is. When we praise Him just for being who He is, He usually shows up and He meets us and He has something for us. But that should not be our reason for worship. It's a great benefit for sure, but our reason should be to just reflect back to Him who He is. And that's really where this stemmed from one day when I just had this moment of just sitting in God's presence and just craving His presence and craving His glory. And so as we enter into this time tonight, I pray that everything that, or anything rather, that might be stressing you out or weighing you down, that you're able to just put that off and you're able to just completely enter in. And this first one is called Glory. Darkness flees at the the sound of your name. Your glory goes before me and prepares a way. Mountains bow down and wicked hearts are tamed as we all fall prostrate at the foot of the King. And night and day and night our voices rise with those whose eyes can't contain your side. And as they rise, holy, 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 your glory fills the skies. The wretched are made righteous, the broken made whole, and those who are lost and wandered now have a home. Blinded eyes now burst with vision of seascapes of forgiveness and mountains of redemption, and a self-portrait of a second chance given. There's none before you, none beside you. Who can outrun you and who can deny you? You were, you are, and forever you will be. A great chasm of love, a divine mystery, and as deep cries out to deep, so has your mercy called out to me. And from the rising to the setting of the sun, your intelligent design covers the earth. Even the purest of diamonds and the deepest of caves pale in comparison to the dimension of your beauty and worth. It's not by coincidence or some chance explosion that the ocean knows just how far upshore it should go. And it's not by chance the earth is tilted just so to keep us angled yet grounded. And who else could use the foolish things to keep the wise confounded and flip the ways of this world upside down by making the first become last and the last become first, exposing that it's in our weaknesses where your strength is found. And you've built a kingdom where all are welcome and everyone has a seat. And you've given us a king who among the sinners would rather eat than walk in the ways of religious rule, who emptied himself out that we might become full. You gave him as a blameless pathway to get back to you, a blameless pathway to get back to the one who's true, the one who allows his grace to rewrite our story, the one who, despite our shortcomings, invites us into this glory. And as it surrounds me, I'll make your name known. And as it surrounds me, I'll worship at your throne. And as it falls on my face, I promise I'll never be the same. I can't enter into your presence and leave the exact way I came. So let it fall. Let your glory fall and fill this place. Let your glory fall so I won't leave the same. I can't leave the same. We can't leave the same. God, we thank you so much for this time of worship. God, we thank you that you allow us to be like you and to be creative and create and offer those as expression of worship to you, God. And I pray now over everyone who is joining us in this time that they would see you and they would experience you in a new and a real and a tangible way. God, I pray that your presence would just fill their homes, God, that your presence would wash over their families, Lord, as you reveal yourself and as we just press in and we worship you for your truth and we worship you, God, for the things that you are revealing through the arts, Lord.